Hey everyone, one of the coolest things to me that are in the Bible, um, is seeing the foreshadowing of what was written in the Old Testament and then how it correlates with Christ and, grace versus law, the two brothers. There's so much in there to show. It's awesome. And one of my favorite things is the temple. And in understanding why God was so explicit when he was given the instructions in Exodus how to build his temple. And every little piece of article, whether it was the layers of the skin that was put over the original tabernacle. And what's really cool is when it talks about, this tabernacle that was built in the desert, and it was built in the presence of God, was put in the ark. And and Jesus, it says, we read in John that Jesus the Word became flesh and dwelt among us. That word dwelt actually is tabernacle. And to understand the foreshadowing of this tabernacle and how it was Jesus and how we are in his image of God created. And we read and there's just so many awesome pieces of this, like the skin I was saying and how that correlates to our skin, the layers of our skin, and the altar. And you look in Hebrews where Jesus takes his blood to the most holy place not made by human hands. And we know that in the tabernacle, this most holy place beyond the veil was the presence of God in the Ark of the Covenant. And the brazen altar is like the stomach, and the ribs, of our, we read in Revelation. I think it's Revelation. I'm pretty sure it is Revelation. But the 24 elders around the throne. That's our 12 ribs on each side around the throne, the heart of God, and the brazen altar where the priest would wash their hands. How that's our right and left kidney for cleansing. And I don't want to go through them all, but all the way up to the top of Jesus is the head. And that's where God resided, was in the ark. And even above the ark was the two cherubims, which represent our right and left brain. There's so much good stuff in that. I love it. But the thing I want to focus on today is the menorah. The menorah was this lampstand, and it had 7 bulbs. And what's really cool is that it's actually the exact replica of our heart and the arteries and the 6 arteries and stuff that go out of it. The center of that is the heart. With it's just there's so much to it. It's so awesome of the foreshadowing of Jesus in the Old Testament. And like I said, I want to focus on this lampstand. And it's awesome in Revelation we read that Jesus having the 7 spirits of God. And this menorah, this lampstand, had 7 bulbs which were continuously lit in the temple. See if I can remember the 7 spirits of God. So the center, to me, this is my interpretation, the center would be the Spirit of the Lord. Oh, this is in Isaiah 11, verse 2, which I wrote them down. So if I can't remember them, I did write them down. I'm going to see if I can do them from memory. So the center, we got the Spirit of the Lord, this one. And then we have the Spirit of wisdom, Spirit of understanding, Spirit of counsel, Spirit of knowledge, Spirit of fear of the Lord. I'm missing one. This is in order. I'll just read them in order from Isaiah 11. I think it starts in verse 2. Spirit of the Lord, which is the center then. Then we got a Spirit of wisdom, Spirit of understanding, Spirit of counsel, Spirit of strength. That's one I forgot. Spirit of knowledge and Spirit of the fear of the Lord. And what's really cool is I see so many people that have the Spirit of counsel, which I don't really have. But so many people I see with a Spirit of counsel, and I see other people with the Spirit of knowledge and the Spirit of understanding. And when we come together, we make up that light for other people to see God. Because if that menorah or that light in the tabernacle, you got to think about it, it would have been so dark in there because of all the layers of the animal skin, that if this light wasn't lit in the tent, the priest could never go on and see what was in the tent. They could never see go beyond the veil and see the presence of God. And that's when Jesus says that I am the light of the world. He's telling the Israel people that I am that menorah. that he is those 7 bulbs, those 7 spirits of God, and without me, no one will see the Father. So they understood what he was saying because they had been so accustomed to the rituals of what would go on in that temple, or at least the priests would and the Pharisees, the teachers of the law. They definitely would have known what Jesus was saying. But then Jesus commissions us to be the light. And I know all of us have heard stories about or seen, the replica, like if you're in a dark place and you just flick a lighter, boom, that light extinguishes or it puts out the darkness. And when I was thinking about this, making this video today, something that really stuck out to me was I really felt the Lord was saying there's 2 kingdoms. There's a kingdom of darkness and there's a kingdom of light. And we read in Colossians 1 verse 13 that Jesus, that God has plucked us out of the kingdom of darkness and placed us into the kingdom of light of his Son, Jesus Christ. And now Jesus has commissioned us. He says, you're the light of the world. You're this light. And we've all sing the song, some of us did when we were kids, about hiding this light under a bushel. No. But I got thinking about, like, if I'm always going to a place of light, say if I'm not saying it's bad to go to church, it's good to go to church, it's good to fellowship, but if that's the only place that I'm going and feel comfortable talking about Jesus, I'm then bringing light into the light. And if you saw that little short video I did, I actually light a lighter in the light, and it literally has zero effect on my surroundings. Zero effect because the light's already there. But if I was to take that same lighter and light it in a dark room, I could be able to see. And I've been saying this lately, it just keeps coming up, that Jesus said you must be born again to see into the kingdom of God. So that first gift is sight to see the Father. It's so good. This is why we are the light, because we are the light to those to see the Father, to see the love of God. And sometimes we have to go to dark places. But we're not going to reach people if we're not going into the dark places. We're not going to reach people if we're only letting our light shine in the light. We're not really affecting much, And it's also like, the salt. It says we are the salt. And that salt, the purpose of salt, actually, when Jesus was on earth, they got the salt from the Dead Sea. And the salt was actually a fertilizer. It had phosphates, calcium, and potash. And this potash is what actually was used to fertilize. And that's why he says it's good for the soil. And if you throw it out, it's good for the dunghill, because back then they didn't have plumbing, so the people would go to the bathroom and then dig it, and then they would actually take salt from the Dead Sea and they would put it on over their stuff. So the salt was used to make things grow. Back then, when Jesus was referring to this, so salt was used to make things grow, but salt was also used so things wouldn't grow where we didn't want them. And that's our purpose as the salt, to put flavor into the earth. I know a lot of us, think, well, salt as in my food, and that's, the seasoning. And of course that's also, referred to as well. But the main thing that salt was used for back then was for fertilizer and so things could grow with the potash, and so things couldn't grow on their dung pile. And then Jesus says, well, how can you, if the salt loses its flavor, how can it be salty again? And the thing that's really interesting about what is it called, calcium phosphate, is it doesn't ever lose its flavor. So the only way that it could lose flavor is if they would have mixed the salt from the Dead Sea, with too much sand. So if I had all this sand with a little bit of salt, well, that's not going to work to fertilize the soil. That's not going to work to keep out what I want not growing in the dunghill. And that's what Jesus was saying, that if we mix too much of the world in, we're of no effect. But when we all come together, we can bring the light into a dark place. And it's the same thing with like a salt shaker. If I have a salt shaker, and I need just a little bit of salt sprinkled on my food is going to really make a big difference. But if I never pour that salt shaker out, the salt is of no effect. And I think you see the resemblance what I'm saying. Like, if we never get out of that building, if we never get out of our safe zone, that environment, and actually get to be where we are needed in the world, whether it's a dark place or a place that has no flavor, this is why Jesus says that we're the light of the world and we are the salt of the earth. It's really super good. It's really super good, because without the menorah in the temple, no one could see what was beyond that veil. And without Jesus, we can never go on past that veil and see the Father. It's really, really good. And He's commissioned you to be the light to the world. He's commissioned us to go into dark places. He's commissioned us to be that offering being poured out. So good. So good. So yeah, just want to encourage you to get out from your salt shaker. Get out. Feel comfortable, because Jesus commissioned you, and if He sent you, He's already gone before you. So, all right, I love you guys. Have a good day.